Now, this is Social Media Decorum episode 4, Stand Culture, Echo Chambers, and Borrowed Beliefs. Now, let's talk about stand culture because some people are not following creators anymore. They are spiritually renting space in another person's storyline. They defend creators like family, they excuse creators like children, they attack strangers like employees. They absorb opinions like assignments. They treat apologies like legal verdicts. They treat criticism like betrayal. And somehow, in the middle of all that defending, arguing, reposting, explaining, and emotionally investing, they forget to ask one simple question: what is this doing to me? Social media has made people feel close to people they do not know. Creators talk directly into the camera. They share their rooms, they share their routines, they share their meals, their grief, their relationships, their comeback stories, their opinions in a voice that feels personal. And after enough videos, lives, posts, podcasts, comments, behind the scenes clips, and vulnerable moments, the viewer starts to feel like they know them. But familiarity is not relationship, access is not intimacy. Watching someone every day does not mean they know you, and that is where parasocial attachment begins. A parasocial relationship is a one sided emotional bond with a public figure, creator, celebrity, athlete, streamer, podcaster, or online personality. It can be harmless, it can be expiring, it can help people feel less alone, but it becomes dangerous when admiration turns into identity, when you cannot criticize them, when you cannot admit they were wrong, when you attack anyone who questions them, when their wins feel like your wins, when their downfalls feel like your personal emergency, when their enemies become your enemies, when their talking points become your personality. That is not support. That is psychological outsourcing. And this is where people lose nuance. Nuance means two things can be true. A creator can be talented and manipulative. A creator can be generous and reckless. A politician can say something you agree with and still behave dishonestly. An activist can fight for a good cause and still mistreat people. A business owner can inspire you and still exploit workers. A pastor can preach beautifully and still lack integrity. A friend can have good intentions and still cause harm. A person can do good things and still be accountable for bad things. But social media trains people into hot and cold thinking, good or evil, hero or villain, chosen or canceled, perfect or worthless, with us or against us. That type of thinking feels clean, but it is mentally lazy. It removes complexity, it removes accountability, it removes self reflection, it turns human beings into mascots. And once you start doing that with creators, you may start doing that in your own life. You may excuse harmful behavior because the person does good things. You may ignore red flags because someone is charming. You may attack people who tell the truth because the truth disrupts your favorite storyline. You may confuse loyalty with denial. You may confuse criticism with hate. You may confuse accountability with betrayal. And eventually, your moral compass starts bending around who you like instead of what is right. That is dangerous because if your standard changes based on who committed the act, you do not have a standard. You have a team, and teams are where tribal thinking enters. Tribal thinking says, my side is good, their side is bad. Virtue signaling says, look how righteous I am standing with my side. Rage bait says, let me trigger you so you comment, share, argue, and keep this machine alive. And the algorithm says, thank you for your emotional labor. Here is more content to keep you activated. That is why your timeline matters. Your timeline is not neutral, it is a classroom, a church, a political rally, a marketplace, a gossip room, a mood board, a mirror, a mental diet. And if your timeline is filled with rage, gossip, humiliation, tribal outrage, fear, conflict, revenge, insecurity, and one sided reporting, you're not just being entertained, you're being trained. You're training your nervous system to stay irritated, and that's very unhealthy. I actually have a video that I'm making about that, about the unhealthiness of maintaining long term anger, of maintaining bitterness. Like you could stand on business with people that you're not rocking with no more and know that that person has no place in your life and be serious about what they did to you. But when you carry it in the form of bitterness or resentment, Your nervous system is never able to fully calm down because you're always on the edge of fight or flight in the event that a threat is coming, because you've told your body that there's threats out there. You are training your nervous system to stay irritated. You're training your mind to look for enemies. You're training your emotions to respond before your judgment arrives. You're training your worldview to shrink. You're training yourself to confuse repetition with truth, because confirmation bias is comfortable. It feels good when everything you see agrees with what you already believe. It feels good when every headline confirms your suspicion. It also feels good when every creator says what your emotions wanted to hear. And a lot of them manipulate that, by the way. It feels good when every comment section looks like the proof that your side is right. But comfort is not always wisdom. Sometimes comfort is just an echo chamber with better lighting. An echo chamber is when your information world keeps reflecting the same beliefs back to you until disagreement feels like danger. And that is where people become easy to manipulate. Because if someone knows what angers you, they can move you. If someone knows what scares you, they can control you. If someone knows what group you identify with, they can sell you a costume, a slogan, a product, a candidate, a lifestyle, or an enemy. And some creators know exactly what they're doing. They know their audience is lonely. They know their audience is angry. They know their audience feels unseen. They know their audience wants belonging. They know their audience wants to feel morally superior. They know their audience wants someone to blame. So they feed the wound and call it content. They exploit vulnerability through tribal language. They use trigger words. They use dramatic thumbnails. They use loaded captions. They use selective clips. They use emotional music. They don't want you to know this language. They use, if you disagree, you're a part of the problem framing. And people mistake activation for enlightenment. But being triggered is not the same as being informed. Being loud is not the same as being correct. Being on the right side online is not the same as living rightly offline. And that brings us to news. Media outlets can report the same story and make you feel completely different emotions depending on word choice. One outlet says protest, another says riot, one says defiant, another says dangerous, one says controversial, another says brave, one says reform, another says attack, one says activist, another says agitator. The facts may overlap, but the emotional steering can be completely different. That is why media literacy matters. The fairness doctrine was eliminated in 1987, which was something that prevented them from that allowed for media to have the report balanced news and report conflicting points of view on the same station. And media balance has never looked the same. So now the responsibility is on the viewer to slow down, compare sources, check original documents, identify loaded language, and separate fact from emotional packaging. You cannot outsource your thinking to your timeline. You cannot let creators chew your food and then call yourself nourished. You cannot let influencers, pundits, gossip pages, activists, celebrities, politicians, or online tribes install beliefs in your mind without inspection. And here is the part people do not want to hear. Some of you know more about a stranger's breakup than your own budget. You know more about a celebrity scandal than your credit score. You know more about a creator's beef than your medical appointments. You know more about political drama than your career plan. You know more about a trial you cannot control than the habits ruining your own life. You know more about people who will walk past you in public than you know about the resources in your own city. That is not awareness. That is displacement. That is investing energy into stories that do not require your responsibility while neglecting the life that does. And I'm not saying never watch the news. I am not saying never enjoy creators. I am not saying never have favorite public figures. Baby, until you do right by you, put all of that other stuff on the back burner. If the news is not something you use for weather on your way to work, before you travel, or for something important in your life, the majority of the news that you're seeing is not important to you if it does not impact you or someone you care about. To just know when they feel like telling you stuff that's wrong in the world, even though a lot of the stuff that they report one day probably is stuff that's been going on for hundreds of years and they just reported it that day and you just heard about it that day. Like, for example, wars. We have been having wars going on for so long, and I understand why some people will stand for some of them ending. That is a respectful cause, but overall, for the regular everyday person who is not an activist and who's not involved in anything, it doesn't serve you to be aware of that. Let the people who verbally tell you about it, because when you see all of that, all of those visual things, the human body is not meant to see this much tragedy on a regular. That is why a lot of people feel depressed. That is why a lot of people are feeling down about society and humanity, because they are binge feeding you every negative thing going on in the world. You barely see articles about child geniuses anymore. You barely see articles about breakthroughs in science and stuff. I do. I see all those articles because I know where to go. But the average person watching television is not going to see that. They quickly will tell you about UFOs and fireballs in the sky. We're beautiful like diamonds. I'm rusty right now. I don't feel like it. But they'll tell you about all of the bad stuff, and it's really no balance. And for many people, if you don't already have a relationship with your inner self, you don't realize the harm you're doing. Because if you're someone who internalizes things that are outside of your control, you're basically taking a pot and putting hot water and hot water and hot water, even as it's spilling over, but the pot is still on the stove. And you just put more and more hot water in there, and you flooding the kitchen floor where all of that built up emotion that has nowhere to go, and it's not even yours to have. Not to mention, a lot of the online things have all of these calls to action that's regarding other groups of people, and the people who buck y'all head up to do this stuff, you don't know what kind of life these people live. These people could be telling you that they pro something, and then in real life they popping bottles and twerking with the people that they telling you online is the enemy. How many times are y'all going to see posts and pictures at dinners and all of these different events where the same people y'all thought was on y'all quote unquote side is shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with people who's supposed to be from the other side? How many times people made y'all think who people voted for really mattered to them, only for them to be with the people that they claim to hate? All of this stuff is just, is there's truth to the situations these things have are connected to, but the way they're being handled and the seriousness of it, the average person with awareness knows that no one is serious about any of this stuff. It's only the people who are being manipulated and being used as pawns and foot soldiers and things like that. Pay attention to how some of these content creators weaponize their fans, because they don't see you as a human who could have real life consequences, who could lose your life, who could lose your job. They sick you on people like you a guard dog. They never warn y'all about protecting y'all freedom. They never tell y'all to keep in mind y'all don't lose y'all job. Y'all make burner accounts if y'all want to do this and this. They don't ever give y'all warnings because they don't care about y'all. You are like, when you get to a point where you're empowering someone else's narrative, you no longer the author. You're now a supporting character in someone else's book, and that book could be, they can do anything. They could make 10 movies like Fast and the Furious, or they could rewrite history if they want to. So just be very mindful. You still have a life, even though it's so many people on the world and many of us gonna be forgotten in about 100 years. But while you still here, this is your story that you need to tell yourself. You never know. What if you are reincarnated? Or what if you do have to watch your whole life back on the movie? Are you going to want to have to deal with the fact that you spent over a decade wasting your life on the internet? The internet is a tool. It is not to be something that overtakes your life. It's not supposed to be that important to anyone. Even people in tech try to decenter the internet and not use certain apps and avoid certain websites, because they know not only is it bad for your brain, depending on the website you use and what information you put in, your digital footprint is being sold to advertisers. That's why the ads are so accurate. Of course, the camera and the microphone stuff, but the algorithm is so tricky that it can actually look at your online browsing history and come up with what you like too, especially over a long period of time. So even if, like, loneliness is no longer an excuse, because relying on technology in a world that has outdated electrical infrastructure and digital infrastructure. Like the majority of the institutions, big institutions in this country, have not updated stuff in decades. So if there were to be a day where the shit hits the fan with technology or with electricity, what are you going to have to do? If your whole life revolves around social media access, what is your brain going to do going from having 12 plus hours a day of this to not having any access to it? Like, people are going to panic when that happens, but you could at least be prepared. Like, learn how to live offline too. Be versatile. Be able to have days where it's no technology. Maybe you respond to people. I feel sorry for you if you have those clingy ass people in your life that want to text all throughout the damn day for nothing. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? Bless your heart. But days where you read books, maybe you cook, just do stuff to where you're not completely relying on technology. And a lot of people who feel lonely, if your goal is to be social, you have to you have to move around to be able to become social. Don't just be running the streets trying to talk to any person, because this is not the first day of seventh grade where people, what are little things that you pull a string off and then you ask the person, can you be each other friend, and y'all tie each other string on each other, and by the end of the day they count who made the most friends. This is not that. However, there are many healthy environments, like the library, like parks, if it's safe. Not every park is safe, and they have people that be doing nasty stuff in the parks if you go at the wrong time. But they have parks, they have, if you're a religious person, they have religious places, and you don't even have to join a religious place. If you religious, you could religious hop. Stop subscribing to one community, because some of these communities be very messed up and full of scandal that they don't know how to handle, and then you get stuck there. And if you someone who not religious, it's so many other things you could do. I know the cliche of get in nature and all of this other stuff. That's cool too if you like it, but I'm allergic to grass. I still get in nature, but I'm allergic to grass, so I can't be rolling in the deep like y'all can. But my point is to build a regular life. This is not natural. The internet is something that was never thought of to be used this frequently by this many people. But with it being the reality now, you see what the priority became. Once they saw how many people was joining the internet and joining streaming services, ads are everywhere. You can't even, you flush the toilet and the water try to sell you something. Like, ads are everywhere, and all of this stuff is by design now. It wasn't originally meant for it to be like this. They didn't foresee it. A lot of people actually slept on social media. Even some investors, they slept on social media. They didn't think social media was going to be anything because they was basing it off the world at the time. But now they see that humans are able to be shifted out of different habits and different things that they value. But before you value your profiles online, because I used to see people crying when their stuff get deleted, value yourself first. I mean, unless you want to be a pawn, that's perfectly fine. My whole point is you need to be aware of what you are. Like, if you a reckless person, you need to be aware of that and own that. If you're a responsible person, you need to be aware of that and live that and own that, and also respect your own mind to not bend your own standards just to fit in with musty ass people who don't even know who the hell they are. Because if you having to fit in with people, they damn sure don't know who they are, and they just want to be the leader of the pack so bad, and you give them that validation by bending to their will. And you deserve better than that. Otherwise, you're just gonna be another sad person online, or you're gonna be one of those news stories of crazed fan, blah 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 blah. Either you attacking the person you're a crazed fan of, or you getting into a fight with somebody from the opposite side, and you hurting yourself. Like, when you go to hell, you're gonna be mad. Hopefully, you don't believe in hell, because at least if you don't believe in hell, I guess you won't be there. But for the people who believe in it, you know. Anyways, I'm not saying never have favorite public figures. Enjoy content, learn from creators, laugh, rest, be entertained. But see, laugh, rest, not get angry. Be entertained. Support people who inspire you, but do not worship them. Do not outsource your morality to them. Do not become their unpaid defense attorney. Do not let their worldview become your entire operating system. Do not let their controversy become your emotional weather. Do not let their content distract you from your own life, because the creator you're defending is living their life. Are you living yours? So here is how you strengthen critical thinking. Number one, pause before reacting. Your first emotion is not always your final judgment. Number two, ask who benefits, who gains money, attention, votes, views, sympathy, power, or control from this message. Number three, separate facts from framing. What actually happened? What words are being used to make me feel something? Number four, compare at least three sources. Do not let one creator, one outlet, or one page, or one political camp become your entire brain. That's actually never mind. Number five, look for the original source. Court documents, full interviews, full speeches, official reports, direct statements, not just clips, captions, and commentary. Number six, follow credible opposing viewpoints, not chaos, not trolls, not rage farms, but thoughtful people who challenge you without manipulating you. The whole premise of rage baiting is the people who are emotionally unregulated will fall for the trap every single time. And it's actually so cringy to see, because I've seen people who have verbally been warned and who have verbally out their own mouth stated that the rage baiter in question, which is so many of them, was a rage baiter. And still, as this person continued, or these people continue to post content or do interviews making rage filled statements, these people fell for it every time. That's the equivalent of trapping the mice on a sticky trap, letting it off the sticky trap, putting some more food on that same sticky trap, and the mice just keep coming back. If that happened, you would think the mice were stupid, right? Or if somebody kept telling you to go down the side street for some money, and every time you go down the side street, you get mugged, but you keep going down the side street for money. That's literally what it is when you let a rage baiter rage bait you, because it's more about you than them. Wouldn't you allow this person to push your buttons? Like, learn how to be in observer mode where you can view something someone is doing or saying, but you don't let your internal system connect to that, to where it's like the person is in front of you, because the body doesn't know about the internet. The body sees anger as, oh, a threat, because a lot of people don't control their breathing, and they don't realize when things confuse you or frustrate you, you automatically start breathing less, shorter, faster, which makes everything else go up. That's why you see people take deep breaths in situations, because the breathing is a regulation system. When you breathe in deeply and breathe out longer than you breathe in, that's telling your body that you're in a safe place. And especially if you do it throughout the day, whenever you catch yourself spiking your cortisol or your adrenaline spiking, you keep yourself down, because your nervous system is not made to be in fight or flight mode all of the time. That is why people who do sports, especially sports like football and boxing, they tend to have a lot of long-term damage, because they were in fight or flight for so long. And that's why when I tell people to be careful in the gym. When you lift weights, you're triggering fight or flight in your body. That is why it's important to be a breathe deeper. Do not mouth breathe. Learn how to breathe out of your nose when you're working out, especially inhaling. You always inhale through your nose as much as you can. Try to never inhale through your mouth at all. Your nose is there for a reason. Number seven, audit your emotional state. After watching this content, do you feel wiser or just angrier? Do you feel informed or activated? Do you feel empowered or addicted? Number eight, protect your real life. Before giving an hour to drama, ask, did I handle my bills? Did I apply for the job? Did I exercise? Did I sleep? Did I eat something nourishing? Did I call the person I actually love? Did I clean my home? Did I work on my goals? Did I solve something within my control? Because social media can make you feel politically awake while your personal life is asleep. It can make you feel morally powerful while your real world discipline is missing. It can make you feel connected to a movement while disconnected from yourself. And that is not growth, that is digital hypnosis. So, the rule for episode 4 is this: admire people without surrendering your discernment, support creators without becoming their soldier, watch the news without letting it own your nervous system, engage with content without losing control of your mind. And remember this: A creator can inspire you without becoming your compass. A movement can matter without replacing your judgment. A headline can inform you without hijacking your day. A group can validate you without owning you. A timeline can entertain you without educating you. Think before you stand. Think before you share. Think before you defend. But think before you let someone else's story become the loudest thing in your life. This has been Social Media Decorum, episode 4. Protect your mind, protect your morals, protect your life from content that profits from your reaction. And this is actually the perfect time for me to reveal that this is why I don't say certain things as introduction or even at the end of videos. And that's also why I even took the little annoying ass intros I had in there that was completely not the same volume as my speaking voice on these videos, because of the fact that I know that the world is hurting. The world has always been hurting. It will always be hurting. But at this point in time, it seems like more people are than usual. And I'm not about to take advantage of y'all, because for me, I don't have online enemies. So no one needs to be beefing over me for nothing. And as far as comments, I don't. I thanks to 414 Zuri, I actually wasn't reading comments initially, but I appreciate the stuff that people are saying, because people thoughts and opinions matter, especially when they share their stories. They don't have to do that, and they speak in full sentences. I love that. Shout out to that. Shout out to y'all. But for me, like, I really think that's insane. And I think it's because I don't just see it from a content creator side. I have been the friend of, the family of, the neighbor of people who have been weaponized for fake causes, and I've seen the damage it has done to people's lives. People have legit been blackballed from career fields, letting these creators put these batteries in their back. It's somebody right now, a whole alcoholic, that is a Dr. Umar stan of all people. And this man is really living his life based off what Dr. Umar told him. Even though Dr. Umar don't live his life based off of what Dr. Umar told him. It's like, it's so insane to me, but I get it, I guess. And all we can do is nothing. Focus on our own life. And not to mention, as fun as it is to call these people idiots and move on about your day, like some people do, the fact is, we like, it's going to come back to haunt us. We can do as much separation, segregation, isolation, precipitation, elevation, inspiration. Let me stop. We could do as much stuff as we want, but what happens when this person is our doctor? Like the person who can't put their phone down. What happens when this person is the person making our food in the kitchen and the chicken raw? Like, these things come back to bite. So I mean, unless we in a completely digitally non-dependent community, it can definitely come back to bite. So all we can do first is start off saving yourself. Save yourself first, and then you can be a light to other people. But don't ever put it in your mind that you saving somebody or that you need to save anybody. That is not how this works. People who want to change will be enlightened enough to ask you or to take notes from you. Look at all of the other things that people follow blindly. No one asked them to follow that. They did it on their own, through inspiration, through manipulation, through hateration, holleration, and this dancery, all of that. But that's it for this video, because it's short. Now I keep it short. I guess 30 minutes. Well, that's my short. Thank you for watching. Have a great one. More videos coming. This is a sweatshop of videos.